Hello folks, welcome to Qwoff TV. I'm Justin, the man on the far left is Andre, and the man in the middle, Ed Carr. Ed Carr is...
Okay.
Welcome, Ed.
Welcome. Thank you.
This man is the most awarded sparkling winemaker in the country.
Yeah, now we get the plug in now, Ed. No, this is Mr. Sparkling. What do they call you?
Mr. Fizzypants.
Mr. Fizzypants.
That's gone somewhere else. He's brought some beautiful wines. We're tasting. We thought we'd do a bit of a sparkling masterclass. It's a time of year for sparkling celebration, and there's a lot of people that drink sparkling and aren't exactly sure what to look for.
And if there's one man in the country that can give us a sparkling masterclass with some authority, it is indeed Ed Carr. Now, Ed, you're with Accolade Wines.
I am, indeed, yes.
Mr. Fizzypants, is that your official title on your card?
No, it's not on the card.
It's just down there at Arras. Now, are you based in Ranella, or are you based down at Bay of Fires?
Based at Ranella.
Right.
That's the sort of sparkling hub
Okay.
for the company. So all the sparkling wine in one stage or another comes through that site.
Right.
And Tasmania is obviously a region you are very fond of as far as sparkling goes, and you've mentioned Yarra Valley to me before.
Yeah, we've sourced premium sparkling fruit from all the cold climate regions within Australia, and Adelaide Hills, Yarra Valley, Tumbarumba, Tassie, and Tas has always been on the high on the list as ultimately where we'd get the best, technically correct and best global quality sparkling wine from. So been there about 16 years now sourcing fruit, and some of the wines are starting to get their act together nicely.
Just starting to get their act together.
There's an
I read
understatement.
about a 97 point from Halliday recently.
Oh yeah.
Is that the highest score ever awarded for an Australian sparkling?
Would go close. I think it's been 97s, 98s occasionally.
Yeah.
But I say this.
My information's wrong.
When I say just.
It sounded like you'd just done some research there, Justin.
I have, and it was wrong. This is straight from your website, Ed.
Okay. Well, it could well be. I don't really.
Yeah, I'd just like to inform you, idiots. Congratulations on that.
Yeah, we don't do
I'd
research
seen
very
a-
often. Please don't kill it when we do.
I thought I'd seen a 98 at one point in my life, but maybe not.
Yeah.
I was just dreaming.
Oh, you're fired.
Now, I'm just going to quickly, before we march on to these exciting wines that you brought, you actually have your little name on a couple of these wines, so you've been immortalised. You've won an unprecedented 21 consecutive best sparkling. How old are you? The consecutive best
He's
sparkling
questioning
wine
this fact
of
as
show.
well. Yeah, the website is.
Yeah, that's a little while ago now, but we went through a little purple patch, which is. We just
That's a long purple
went
patch.
very well in the shows for quite a long time.
So you're it. You sort of smash it up in that sparkling, you guys, don't you?
Well, we've focused on it for a long time, and I think we've got a team of people that have working on sparkling wine for a long time, had a bit of a vision as a team, and it's just coming together.
Humble as well.
Yeah.
Nice work. Well, what have you brought
Well, we've
for us
brought
today?
a range of wines really just to look at a bit of a spectrum of what's available from our company at various price points and styles. These are all Pinot Noir Chardonnays or Chardonnay Pinot Noirs, like the classic varieties, but made in a couple of different methods and different levels of age. So from a very soft, approachable, easy drinking, lower price point style to our top end wine. So just a range, and as a company with our brands, we're looking to get these wines our sort of expression of that style we like at a certain price point. So using all the materials and methods that are available to us to achieve that style.
And these three, these have each been made in a different method. One of there's essentially four methods of making sparkling wine. Is this right?
Yeah.
Oh, one's sort of cheating, isn't it?
Yeah, one's
soda stream.
Yeah, one's just carbonating. It isn't it? Sticking CO2 in there.
So,
we haven't got that here.
No, we don't have any carbonated one here, but we do.
So was that like passion pop or something? Is that?
It's a way of making a wine sparkling, of course, but you don't enhance anything with that method. You're just using the fruit, the varieties that are there.
And they pretty much go flat straight away, don't they? Or pretty quickly.
They don't hold their bubble as long as a naturally fermented wine, but they do hang on to the gas for quite a while.
Really?
Yeah.
My 6-year-old son was asking me, because I was explaining to him, telling the story of my wife and my wedding, and I was talking about a bottle of sparkling, and he asked what's sparkling or what's champagne. And I said, it's like bubbly wine. And he said, is that like when you mix lemonade and wine? And I said, hopefully not. So hopefully that's not what we're going to
We're looking at
just got here. All right, so what do we got?
first one is Omni. It's the NV, so Chardonnay Pinot Noir.
Price point?
Price point up to $10 at this point. Yeah.
All right.
And this is what they call the tank method?
Tank fermented or
Yep.
Charmat.
Charmat, yeah.
And Charmat method is fermented not in the bottle but in a large stainless steel vessel. So cost of production is lower, and it suits fruitier, more easy drinking styles, wines that you're not going to age.
But it's still the secondary fermentation is
It's still a
again
secondary
done-
fermentation
done
with the yeast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know, for those of you that really go back from the beginning, all wine is obviously fermented once. It's fermented distilled wine, that's how you get your booze, your alcohol in it. Sparkling wine gets a second fermentation, the yeast gets added again, and that's what makes the bubbles in simplest terms.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that is. So yeah.
there's different ways of getting that second ferment happening, and that's what we're looking at right here. You just correct me if I'm saying something the really wrong way, I was just trying to keep it simple.
No, that's the way that most of them are made, apart from sort of ASCII styles, which can be made in one ferment.
Right.
But yeah, it's that's generally the way they're done.
So Omni, probably seen it many times before. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
That's good.
Actually, Ed, while we're sniffing the wine, obviously with still wines, people that have a real interest in wine will generally know you swirl it around, you put your nose in, you smell. Sparkling, it's bubbling away. The aromas are kind of lifting off anyway. Do you swirl or do you just put your nose in?
I do a bit of both, to be
Yeah.
honest. But initially, when there's a lot of gas evolution, you can get away with just holding it still. But I think as it sort of settles down a bit, I don't know if it's habit or whether it's actually.
It's a really good question, because when I'm at a tasting, I'll still, by habit, sort of swirl around my mouth and then get the bubbles up and it's like, oh shit!
It's like an explosion.
Yeah, so obviously
do
that's
you
not
do
the way
that?
to go.
Do you wash around? Or do you?
It's just how you taste the wine,
I
eh?
do. Actually,
It's from professional, ladies and gentlemen, please don't try this at home.
I still swirl it.
Yeah.
That's it, done. I don't tend to.
Good.
I think just moving it around the mouth.
So you gently roll it around in the mouth, or do you actually?
Yeah, I'll just gently roll it around. But I tend to be a big volume taster. I know some guys only take tiny little things and move it around a lot more.
So you just pour until it fills up and
Big
sit
shot,
there.
Yeah.
So alright, so what do you got?
This wine is Chardonnay predominant, so you get that sort of citrus, fresh, young Chardonnay characters. And
Heaps of peach on this one actually too.
Yeah. And a little bit of yeast from the second ferment, but just that light sort of
Like friendly, easy
creamy
drinking kind of.
brioche sort of yeast, and the Pinot Noir gives it a bit of structure on the palate, and so you get that sort of slightly strawberry effect of the Pinot and the light citrus of the Chardonnay.
Lovely, nice entry level sparkling.
So you expect to pay $8 or $9 for that, wouldn't you, somewhere you went?
Yeah, I mean it's as a brand, it's generally around about the $10 mark.
Okay, well, $10, that's highly drinkable. All right, next.
So tank method, you kick the yeast in a big tank and it's made as a excellent. All right.
So that would be from a warm region fruit. So the fruit's a little bit more generous and soft and drinks at a very young age.
Yeah.
So obviously there's no age on that fruit.
So you're probably not wanting to lie that down for 10 to 15
minutes or weeks. No, I mean really, it is just a soft, approachable, easy drinking style. And
Yeah.
that's really what we're aiming for.
And this next one is which method?
This is bottle fermented, but it's the transfer method. So bottle fermentation has the big advantage that you can age the wine on the yeast. Transfer method is a German adaptation of the traditional French method. It's a more automated process, so you get greater economies of scale.
Yeah.
So when I say transfer, you ferment in one bottle and you sell the wine in another bottle. So you take the wine out of the bottle.
You ferment, you put it in a tank, you rebottle.
Yeah.
But it all still sits there in its little, what's that called when they're sitting in the, and they get turned?
That's remoulage, that's the traditional method. But transfer method is still on yeast lees, and so this wine's had nearly 4 years on yeast lees. So the actual fermentation only takes about a month.
Yep.
And then the wine's been aged on those yeast lees that conducted the fermentation.
In the first bottle.
Yeah.
In the bottle.
Yeah.
And then it goes to tank and then chucked in. Okay.
But the tank transfer, that's only a bottling process right at the end, isn't it?
Yeah. So you put your wine in the bottle, it ferments. The short and happy life of yeast is about a month.
Yeah.
After that, there's no more sugar left, so they actually die because they've got no energy source anymore. And then over the next number of years that you age that wine, those yeast cells break down, and it's that autolysis, as you well know, of the yeast that generates all those yeasty
Doughy, bready,
yeah.
So these bottles sit there though with the yeast in it,
Yeah.
under crown seal, is that right?
Yeah, under a crown seal generally.
For like, it's a nice beer cup. For this one for 4 years, you say, the bottle, and then it's right at the end. Goes through a process where crown seal comes off, all the wine gets put through a line and bottled in a new bottle.
Yeah, so you actually pierce the crown and put a tube down to the bottom of the bottle.
Right.
And then push the wine out with carbon dioxide pressure in to a tank.
And is there like a little cap of yeast that stays there or not?
No, because these have been lying on their side all the time.
Yeah.
It's just a film of yeast.
And does that get?
So it's quite turbid. It's a bit like your home beer kit, where you've had a yeast ferment and you've got turbidity from the yeast in there.
Yeah.
So we actually centrifuge the yeast out of there.
Yeah, so it's cleaned up.
So
turbidity.
This is
word for the week, folks. Turbidity.
And so this is where the leaf stuff you can start seeing the complexity go a whole lot deeper. It's got that pretty doughy stuff adding lots of
Yeah.
You've got the wine maturing as well.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the wine's aging. That's a 2005 vintage wine.
Yep.
Right.
It's obviously had that 4 years of age on yeast, and so you've got the effect of wine maturation and yeast.
Got some interesting aged Pinot characters I'm getting on the nose in this. Which is really nice.
Yes, it's a Pinot Noir predominant wine,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's red fruit driven, so sort of has more of that sort of almost lychee sort of.
Yeah, it's got that.
Lucky I picked that then, isn't it?
You read that on the website.
No. Oh, I didn't do research.
It's like, dang, you took my point now.
Research. Yeah, it's got a terrifically red winey nose, which is quite in contrast to what you expect.
It's moving that kind of slight kind of honeyed notes as well. It's it's a lovely wine. How much does that sell for?
It's in generally the low to mid 20s.
Gee, that's a really good value.
That's a bargain. And there are some real bargains. Like I reckon, you don't mind we talk about a few other brands?
No.
There's some real bargains out there, aren't there? Like your Brown Brothers and people like that you can get sort of low 20s or even high teens.
Yeah.
This method, we make some pretty good booze in that.
Yeah, we've got good fruit in a lot of good regions,
Yeah.
cold climate regions, and Brown Brothers do, I think, an excellent job with the wines that they make. And because our production methods are quite automated, you can get some really good value wines coming through because your cost of production is under control.
Now, is it true that Cava, Spanish version of sparkling, is the most widely produced or most widely drunk sparkling in the world? That's the highest volume produced
They are
sparkling in the world.
huge, yeah.
Yeah. So we get very little of it here, but in the UK and throughout Europe and even in the States, I believe it's a lot more common. It's the biggest selling. You think it'd be.
And is that traditional method though, isn't it, Carl?
Well,
Yeah, cover is.
Yeah.
or what still?
Yeah.
Or they go into this method for their high volume stuff as well.
I'm pretty sure it's
Carver
traditional.
It has to be traditional method.
Okay.
But by legislation.
Okay.
it is. But traditional method gets quite cost effective when you get very large volumes, when you can use a lot of robotics and stuff to handle individual bottles, because that's what you need to do. So either you need very cheap labour or lots of robots to actually be able to.
In Spain, they have both options.
So they can produce, and the cost of fruit is cheap.
Yeah.
Glass is very cheap in Europe, that sorts of things.
All right.
So here, you're just getting development and complexities of wine as it's and a slightly drier style.
I reckon Sir James is one of the great underrated sparklings in this country. It's consistently good, isn't it? Like really good.
Yeah, it's been around a long time now.
Yeah,
it's
one of those brands that you've just, it's been around for so long.
It's one of the only wines that consistently had a television ad.
Yeah, that's right. In its early
I've
days,
seen the old ones.
Yeah,
I've seen
right.
the 70s one.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's amazing how many people remember those.
Yeah.
It's just-
Well, it's a good campaign.
Yeah.
This simple procedure song. Whatever, remember that one?
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
And not many wineries can afford to put TV ads on, so it's one of the few.
I
So when they come on, you take notice of them.
Is that because you're not allowed to advertise booze? I thought
No,
that
it's
may have
just-
been the
it's too
reason, but
expensive.
it's just too expensive.
Costs a lot of money.
It costs a lot of money.
Tight-ass industry.
Fair enough. Next one up
Next one
is
up.
a very famous one in the top
Yeah.
end of sparklings in this country. Talk us through this one, Ed.
Yeah, so as I was saying before, we did identify Tasmania, and we're not the only ones by a country mile that have identified Tasmania as the place to grow top-end sparkling. So, and we started back then in '95, sourcing fruit from there. When I said the wine's only just getting their act together, it's because I guess we believe that they need to be very old wines when they're on the market.
Yeah.
So starting in '95, we've got 7-year-old and 10-year-old wines here, so that takes a bit of time off of that mix.
Now, can you give us obviously with a vintage sparkling, you're using wine from that vintage,
Yeah.
but with a non-vintage, you're simply using the first fermented wine from a range of different vintages, right?
Yep.
And so is that wine generally kept aside in tank? Let's say you've got a wine and you might be, so something comes out non-vintage, it's released this year, it might have 2008, 9 and 10 Chardonnay and Pinot in it.
Yep.
Is that wine just sitting there in tank, waiting to be used?
Yeah, I mean it's really the French, the Champenois, that use a lot of reserve wines.
Yeah.
They vary tremendously by house, but because their vintages, are a lot more unreliable.
Yeah.
They've had some very cold years. They really don't get their fruit very ripe, and then conversely, in probably less number of years, they get their fruit very ripe if it's a hot year. They look with their non-vintage product to blend between years to build a consistency of style. I guess if you look at a non-vintage label, people really want to be sure that year to year they're getting the house style and a very consistent product. So
they're balancing the 2 cold years and the 2 warm years.
yeah. I mean, there's practical limitations on it because you can't hold huge amounts of wine from year to year, but that's the aim. They different houses have very different approaches, but they'll generally mature wine just in tank, either to hold wine from cooler years till they get a warm year, or the reverse.
Yeah, right.
And they might even age some of their reserves to build more character into the wine. So they're building some age in maybe 10 or 20% of the product before it goes on to yeast glass.
Okay. And it was same sort of philosophy here. I guess, or is it's just a...
In Champagne, a vintage label has to be 100% vintage.
Yeah.
In Australia, the regulations are that to put a vintage on a label, you only have to be 85% from that vintage.
Right.
So it's a lot more flexible, I guess, in terms of those rules.
And are you trying to build a house style yourself?
Yeah, that's what I think we've achieved over the course of the years.
Probably the judge of that.
We do have an Arras product called Broad Elite, which is a non-vintage wine, and we also have the vintage Arras Grand.
Which vintage is
the
this?
Grand vintage, that's the 03.
Ah, okay.
So when we're talking about age of wine, with Tasmania, you do ultimately produce great wines, but they need a long time to get where they're going.
All right.
So this wine was 7 years on yeast,
Right.
and about a year on cork now.
So you've literally released, that's this year's release.
That's due to roll over to the next vintage, probably by the end of this year.
Okay, wow. It takes you a while to get your money back,
It
doesn't
does.
it? You'd be popular in the accolades accounts department. Right.
So this one's Chardonnay predominant, whereas the Sir James, I guess, just to explain that, wines we generally produce to be consumed at a younger age, we usually use more Pinot Noir in because they're more fleshy and a bit more generous at a younger age.
And the strawberry's kind of from the Pinot is kind of a popular.
Yeah, I think it is.
Nice friendly flavour, isn't it?
Whereas Chardonnay, I think ultimately produces more elegant, complex styles, but to me Chardonnay takes longer to get where it's going. So this is a couple of years older than that wine that we just looked at, and you can just see the richness and toastiness of the Chardonnay.
Yeah, and you read a lot about brioche use. It's just that beautiful cookie fresh baked cookie sort of smell. Brioche obviously got a nice sweetness to it as a bread, but it's got that in spades of those.
So very complex, very rich, toasty mushroom brioche.
Yeah, it's one of those sit back ones you go, wow, that's really interesting, delicious wine, and I could sit and sip and think about that for a long time.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
really citrus driven too, though, isn't it? It's like this big burst explosion of lime juice with the other stuff.
Yeah, I mean the flavour persistence, it's drier, it's more acid, it's very refreshing.
Yeah.
But it's got a lot of presence and character. And I think that's the big issue to me, that mature sparkling wine should have a lot of character, but still be bright and fresh and a very refreshing sort of drink.
How is it that this is... Sorry, Justin.
No, you know, you.
Like 2003, right? So if I was going to get an 03 Chardonnay or an 03 Pinot, right, and open them fresh, they're both going to be really aged.
Yeah.
Now, even if they're from Tasmania, right? Really aged. Like that's pushing the limits for Pinot in this country in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
And probably for Chardonnay too. Why is it that this tastes like a 2011 vintage Chardonnay? Like it's bright and zippy and citrus driven. It's got nice secondary characters, but predominantly it's a fresh, citrusy, zippy wine.
I think the time on the yeast lees is really modifies the development of a wine. It's a bit of a time capsule. The time
right.
sort of slows it down a bit.
Yeah, right.
Well, it slows it down a lot.
Yeah.
And, I mean, they're stored reasonably cool. We store them around about 15 degrees over the course of its life. But yeah, it's like Chardonnay in a barrel develops more slowly when it's on yeast lees than it does without yeast lees.
Right.
Yeah,
So I think we're saying that just that modification. I mean, it's a very fine wine from the start, but I'm sure the yeast lees change that development and really slow it down.
It's hard to get your head around that that's an 03
Yeah,
wine.
it's
Because that would absolutely not taste like that as a wine. Would it?
No, it certainly wouldn't. I mean, we have a policy too of these are aged a minimum of 6 months on cork after we take the lees out to allow them to open up, because they still are so restrained and tight, even after 7 or 8 years on yeast lees. So we see the cork maturation as an important factor there as well.
And so do you see, I mean, you've spent a bit of time in champagne houses, haven't you? I know you spent some time in Bubbly.
I've done a few visits. I haven't actually worked in any.
Okay. Do you see, what do you see, are there many differences in the way they do things now and the way we're doing things?
I don't think there are, because I mean, instantly with sparkling wine you get compared against champagne.
Yeah, of course.
But I always look at it like champagne is a range of wines.
Yeah.
There's so many different styles. Do you like Bollinger, Krug, Moet, Robert, and they're all made in different ways. They're all made off different vineyards, and they are equivalent qualities, but they're very different styles.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can get absolutely brilliant wines from champagne, and sometimes you can get reasonably plain ones.
Yeah.
So, where was I going?
I don't know. You tell the story. I'm wrapped.
Just the fact that individual house styles are generally evolved based on the traditional vineyards they've had, and from all the winemaking choices that they have.
Yeah.
Are we going to be using oak? Are we going to be oxidative? Are we going to use Malo? How long are we going to keep it for? Which variety is going to be predominant? So all of those different house styles have evolved, sometimes by choice or sometimes because that's what they've always done and it's worked and it's nice and let's stick with it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just curious. So this is actually the Ed Carr.
Yeah.
Late disgorged 2000 Arras. This is about as good as it gets in Australia, right?
Yeah, we're very pleased with that.
This is job security kind of for you, though, isn't it, Ed? I mean, you've got your name on the label. This is like 11 years in the making into
Yeah.
those bottles, so you pretty much secured yourself for life, haven't you?
That was actually someone else's idea, but
Yeah, sure, Ed.
Do you have royalties? Like, what's your arrangement if they...
there's no royalties. No royalties involved. But it is a bit of an honour to have your name on a label before you passed on. So it's always
Sir Carr and Lady Bollinger are an elite group. That's it, shucks, I've cracked it up.
Yes.
So the late disgorge, the LD concept, is just to extend the value of that time on lees, because as I said, they are in a time capsule. They continue to evolve, they continue to get better, if you like these richer styles. So the late disgorged is the grand vintage. Is the grand vintage with more time on yeastly. So this is 10 years on yeastly.
Wow.
Minimum 10.
This is only your third vintage of this wine, isn't it?
Yeah.
We've been lucky enough to try the 98 and the 99.
Yep.
Again, thanks to Ed's generosity. Because this is what, $200 a pop? Thereabouts?
Getting close, yeah.
So there's not many sparkling wines that Australia produces at that price range, are there?
No.
This would be a fair, by about $120 above anything else we make, was it?
No, there's a couple in the mid hundreds.
Are there?
Yeah.
Okay.
And when I told my mother, as our Qwoffers know her big bad Bobby